Here we are with another Friday Night Live. And today we have a very special guest, Rene. Hello, Rene.
Hi. Hi. Excited to be here.
We haven't done many of these in a while, but it's so nice when people choose to share their experiences. This is how the realm of MFS has grown from just myself and everybody else sharing our experiences. That's all we've been doing. And we've had some beautiful, amazing shares in the last 8+ years. And, we came to realize within the first and second year that we were seeing everything's possible. It's just, and it just kept growing and growing, and the miracles kept happening one after another. And here we are today, 8 years later, and we've gone through crazy last 3+ years, and nothing's changed except what I've seen is we're as far as mankind, we're digging ourselves deeper into turmoil graves. I don't know what you want to call it. I've never seen anything happen like we've seen the last 3 years, but we've always got hope, and we have a wonderful creator to keep our relationship strong and our focus, and keep us focused so we can pull ourselves out of this nonsense that's going on now. So maybe you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Rene, and how you found MFS, and and so on and so forth. And
Yeah,
the floor is
sure.
yours.
So a little bit about myself. Well, I'm Australian. You can probably tell by my accent. And how I found Masterfast. Well, I wasn't really chronically ill or anything, but I had a bit of a catalyst moment a few years ago, a bit of a, I don't know, some people like to say spiritual awakening or something like that. And it kind of sent me on the path of healing. And I've done some pretty bad things to my body over the years. And I had started kind of eliminating certain self-destructive behaviors out of my life gradually over a few years after this catalyst moment that I had. And it was, a very slow burn. It was like cutting out certain processed foods. It was cutting out alcohol. It was gradually, I did everything bad, Gino. Like, I did everything bad. I was smoking cigarettes. I was taking recreational drugs.
It's all the good stuff.
I feel like I'm a bit of an explorer here in this human experience, and I've come to just try it all and try and reverse the damage. And so that's what I did. But I didn't really know that it was building up to a fast. It was like I was on this trajectory, and the trajectory was somehow finding Master Fast system. And I have experimented with fasting over that period of time. But funnily enough, I actually did a fast back in my early 20s. I was really compelled to do a 16-day raw juice fast back when I was about 21, I think. And I was completely unconscious by this in my early days. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was still kind of stuck in the mainstream. But I had a bit of a health scare, and for some reason, I don't know, it was like I instinctively knew to fast. And so I tried this 16-day juice fast, and it made me feel amazing. But then I just kind of fell back into unconscious enslavement and, did self-destructive things.
You sound like the 20s was a long ago. Yeah, I was thinking you're still in your 20s.
No, I actually turned 40 this year. I actually turned 40 on April the 8th, so it wasn't actually that long ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So yeah, 40 years young, I like to say. I don't like to say old. I think old is a mindset, but
yeah, it's just a number. It's age. It's just our age.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, it was some time ago. So it was about 2 decades ago that I first experienced the powers of raw juice fasting, but then just kind of, as I said, fell back into unconscious enslavement, I call it, when you're not really aware to the greater reality. And but then after that catalyst awakening moment that I had a few years ago, I really started exploring ways to heal myself. And I knew that there's like 3 elements of our being, you know, the mind, body, and spirit. And I really was trying to focus on all elements, but I think I dived more into the spiritual and mind and that kind of energetic sense, but I wasn't really addressing the physical so much. But I knew that I needed to. I knew that I'd done all this damage to myself, and I knew that I somehow needed to clean the temple. And I just didn't really know how, you know, and I knew fasting was cool, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to try this and experiment. I was really experimenting with mainly like 3 to 7 day raw juice fasts, and I did that periodically over, you know, a few years, and I had done a little bit of experimenting prior to that, but nothing really serious. And I was actually on a raw juice fast when I actually saw I don't know if you probably know like Andy, who's an Australian guy who did 109 days on Master Fast.
Oh yeah.
And one of my friends actually did an interview with him, and he was telling his story about Master Fast system. So it is true. Like, it's powerful how like you share your story and it impacts somebody else, because his story truly impacted me. And I was, as I said, on this raw juice fast, and I can't remember what day it was, but I saw Andy's story. I didn't even think about it. It was like, Master Fast, that's me. I'm doing it. And I literally jumped off raw juice fasting, went to this hellfish. I did everything wrong, by the way, Gino. Like, I did everything wrong at the start. And that's kind of my approach. Sometimes if I am really passionate about something, I'll just fly off the seat of my pants and go and do it without really thinking about it. And that's what I did with Master Fast system. I knew that I wanted to do it. I wasn't really prepared. I was already raw juice fasting, and I heard about it. And I was like, yeah, I went and bought, you know, the grape juice and some of the other elements. I didn't even have an enema kit, but I was like, yep, okay, I'm just going to start and just roll with it. it was pretty bad. But I jumped on the protocol in terms of doing the grape juice and all the other elements. I had every other element, essentially. I just didn't really have the enema kit. So I rolled on the protocol for about 2 weeks without the enema kit, and it's not a good idea. I don't recommend it to anyone. But I feel like my body was just so ready to release stuff. It was like my spirit had already decided that I was doing the Master Fast before I even knew it, because I think it was maybe 3 days into drinking the grape juice, I started releasing mucoid plaque, and that was without an enema kit. It was just falling out of me. Like, I couldn't even believe it. And I think at the start, I had no real expectations as to how long I was going to go. And, you know, I went completely rogue. I was straight onto the liquids, and yeah, and I just couldn't believe it. I was just horrified. And in my mind, I was just thinking, what is this? It was like this alien, when you first see the mucoid plaque, and you just think, this is like some kind of alien parasite living inside of me. And it was just, this decision was made in my mind that I was just going to keep going until I got as much of it out of me as I could. And so I just went, okay, I gave myself like increments in time, where I think initially, I can't even really remember like what my initial goal was. I was like, I'll just do 10, I'll experiment with 10 days and see how I go. And then mucoid plaque was just coming out. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously I'm just going to keep going. And I think I got to day 20. I'm like, well, yeah, I'll keep going. And then I think I got to day 40. And then I think when I was about day 20, I was like, well, I might as well just go to day 40. And the story of Jesus fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, it kind of just rang in my mind. And I was like, well, 40 days seems like a logical number to go for. And, you know, this is me just going with the flow with it. And I got really settled into the protocol. And I think like once you're on that long fast, you make the decision that you're going to be on it, you do get really comfortable in the process. And I actually, for the most part, felt amazing on the fast. There was obviously ups and downs with detox symptoms, which I managed once I got settled into the fast and the protocol, and I got my enema kit. You know, I was really using all of those tools. But I actually felt amazing. I really could not believe how amazing that I felt. And I did get probably a little bit too comfortable on the fast, to my detriment, because I just kept going. And I was extremely toxic. And I think that, you know, I still have a long way to go, but
Hello, you're freezing. Hello, we lost her. Guess some bad internet. There you are. Okay. I can't hear you.
I think the connection is
Okay, there you are. Yeah, we lost you
there.
for
You got me.
we lost you for a few seconds. All right, you're back.
Where did you lose me? How long was I talking with?
No, not too long, just a few seconds.
Oh, great. Yeah. I was just saying, you know, then you have like parasites come out and
Yeah.
it all becomes to this point of like, how filthy am I? And I think that was the most confronting part, is realizing how much of a cesspit I was. And you know, gradually over, when I did have that catalyst moment was in 2019, and I started cleaning up my act to a certain degree. By the time I got to fasting, I had eliminated already quite a lot out of my life in terms of self-destructive behaviors. And I was a meat eater right up until doing the fast, but it was like this natural progression of me to, I just somehow reduced meat out of my life to the point, up until the fast, I was probably only eating meat maybe once or twice a week, where I used to eat it every day. And I think the last time I ate meat, I actually remember eating it and it just didn't even taste right in my mouth. It was, and I couldn't, I thought to myself, is this meat off or is it just tasting funny?
It's
And
it's
sorry, you
quite
go.
interesting because you know in the last at least three little just over 3 years we've seen huge movement going back to carnivorous. It's just
Yeah.
that energy. I call it the Luciferic intellect energy. The carnal energy is it's overtaking mankind. It's just like wow. I haven't seen
Yeah.
this ever in you know in my life. It's really
It's,
going crazy now.
there's definitely some weird energies floating around. And I've been observing that too, because ever since I've come into the fasting world, you know, you follow certain people and you observe how they act as well. And I think I just like also following people in the fasting realm because it also gives me inspiration and motivation to keep on the path as well. Do you know what I mean? And see what they do. And then over the last few months, I've noticed, yeah, shockingly, some of them actually going back to eating meat, just as you said. And for me, it just really, it's quite confusing. Because once I kind of saw that truth and realized it within myself, it just becomes really confusing as to why people would want to go back to that.
I have the understanding that you know emotion trumps all, and you know our social circle has a huge influence on our choices, right? Our partners, our spouses, our family members, our friends, and our coworkers. So that's going to have a major impact in our lives. And some people are just not ready to let that go. The cost of, you know, letting it go to have a healthy, balanced lifestyle. So they'll go back into that. Oh, I'll have a little dab into a little dab. And next thing you know, that's where they're at again. And we see this over and over, and it happens to a lot of us. It's just it's like I said, right now this energy is very, very strong, and it's easy for people to do it, to justify it, to keep doing that, because it's stimulating, stimulants, you know, all the stimulants, you know, sex, drugs, alcohol, food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are things that we've seen take over mankind in a big way, especially in the last you know, few decades, and it's just gotten more and more and more and more, and it's taking control over us. Instead of people seeking, you know, the spirit balance, they're driving them. We're driving ourselves back into the carnal, the material stuff. It's very, very interesting. I thought we were going the other way a few years back, you know, before this lockup stuff happened, and this whole lockup just made people go actually cuckoo is what I'm seeing. And you still see the effects of what's happening. We don't want to get into all that, but I don't know. It's just my thoughts, and it's just very strange what's happened. I'm not judging what people are doing, but we know the repercussions. You cannot escape cause and effect. We know what the environment's going to build by doing that. We know. We have no, there's no guessing games anymore. We know. We see what comes out of people.
Yeah.
So,
And you see what comes out of yourself.
Yeah. So,
that's what makes it.
The choice is all yours. As we say.
Yeah. I know, and that's what makes it so confusing. I just wonder, like, people who go through these processes and they pull all this waste out of their body. I'm like, why would you want to go back to that? And not only that, just the way that I feel after cleaning that amount of waste out of me.
Life happens. Stresses of life. It brings emotions, and it directs people, and the power of emotion will direct us in whatever way. And if we're not ready to, we don't have a really strong foundation and field strength, I like to call it. We got swayed. It's not like it happened to me taking care of my mother. Like, whoa, all those emotions and everything. I've never felt that before in my life, and just a lot of challenges coming up. So. I can see how it happens with people, but if we don't pick ourselves up and get back on track, we're going to be going down that road. And
I think that's where the true power is that when we make mistakes, we have the ability to pull ourselves back onto the path without straying too far off. But even like last night, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm still making a lot of mistakes, but learning along the way. And I think that's, making the mistakes and then learning from it and then moving forward. But last night and I find that my emotions are more affected when I'm tired, and that's where I tend to crumble a little bit. And last night I crumbled, and it wasn't like I fell really far off the path, and it's probably something quite minor, but my body's become so much more sensitive to poisons. And I knew that what I was doing was wrong, and I went to the shops and I bought some dried apricots, which were covered in sulfites. And I just went, surely they'll be all right if I just have a little bit. So I had these dried apricots. Literally within about 2 hours, my body was giving me feedback about how I didn't like these preservatives and sulfites. So it's an interesting process to go through, and I think one has to be definitely ready to accept the changes that happen, or do yourself even more damage.
The senses that you're talking about, our senses start opening back up, and we become very sensitive. And some people, like over all these years guiding people look at it as negative. Why is it negative that your senses work? Because we're not programmed that way. We're programmed away from the truth, and people see it as a negative. No, those senses are there to give you feedback and warning and so on and so forth. It's a beautiful thing to be sensitive, but what most people see.
I actually was listening to something yesterday about the senses and how we have these senses as gifts. And the reason why we use these senses is so we can actually make sense of the world. I just went, wow, isn't it funny how language tells us all the time about things, and people don't really listen to what the words actually are telling us. So I found that quite interesting. And I think if our senses are desensitized, then how are we meant to make full sense of the world? How is it meant to be clear, So I think that's what Masterfast does as well. And what I found is that it really strips back everything, and you see reality for what it is, and your senses can actually grasp what is going on in this time and space, and you can't hide from it. You cannot hide from it.
You can try.
You can try. And honestly,
the mirror of truth is always right there. You can't escape it.
Yeah. And I actually and the ungrounding of emotions, well, particularly when you're coming off the fast, that is real. Like for me, like some people aren't affected, but for me, I was detoxing really hard when I actually didn't want to break my fast. I wanted to keep going. I was really loving the fasted lifestyle. I didn't want to stop, but my detox symptoms became that great. And I actually sensed that I mean, I try not to figure out too much about what's going on, but I like to have a general idea so I can just base my experience off something, some form of knowledge. I actually think that I was going through really severe heavy metal detox potentially when I had to break my fast. I was extremely ill. I was having a lot of kidney stuff going on as well, severe UTIs, like in agony. And this was an ongoing issue that I'd had throughout my lifetime as well. So it was like this issue that had manifested consistently in my life, in my previous life before Master Fast, had come up, and it was like this one big bubbling moment of symptoms re-expressing themselves before, you know, clearing out. And it's the ungrounding that happened to me when I started eating was just intense. Like I didn't really know how I was going to exist in this world anymore. So yeah, I would just see, I remember the first time I walked into a supermarket and I saw a butcher, and I just felt so confronted by seeing just death to being sold. And I was like, how am I going to exist? I think I posted something on the group.
See orbs flying around you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see them. You got to look at them through the camera, unless some people could see them. But yeah,
Yeah.
a few fly through. You'll see it in the video after.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'll go and have a look. But yeah, the ungrounding and just trying to figure out how I was going to exist in this world, which is so broken, and forgotten that connection to source, you know, and because I feel like when
you have a little bit of a more of an understanding of why we are not supporting people in long fasts anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because I think, and what I've come to realize is that, I mean, I've managed to come out the other side and stay true to the path for the most part. I've made some minor errors, you know, along the way. But for me, like, this is my life now, like there's no going back. But I can see how people have fallen off the path. And I think it really comes down to, I've been through a lot in my life, but I've always been quite emotionally regulated, and I've been able to kind of learn from the experiences and move forth instead of letting them control me. And I think that strength was what I leaned on when I broke the fast. And even though I became really emotionally ungrounded, I was able to pull that strength and just go, Rene, you're going to get through this. You're going to be fine. And even though I had some really big ups and downs, I managed to pull myself back up again and dust myself off and go, okay, well, round two, let's go. But I can see how a lot of people who are emotionally already like really quite severely emotionally dysregulated would really struggle with breaking that fast and probably do themselves a lot of harm. So I definitely appreciate why it's not recommended.
Well,
just going through my own personal experience.
Once you're in that 7-day routine, the level 7 routine, it's not, it's simple. Once you're in there, it's simple. That's not the problem. The problem is, how are you going to live your life when you break your fast? And that's where people, unless you've gone through this, you really have no clue. It doesn't matter how many interviews you watch and how many, unless you've gone through it, you don't know you don't know how you're going to react with your emotions. You just don't know.
100%.
You know, some people are not here anymore because they went back to their old ways, and they're long gone. Because they just you know, their emotions took over and they went back to their old ways. That, you know, that's individual choices, and you know, it's much better for people to, you know, do it on a week to week or bi-weekly or at least monthly basis, so you train yourself over and over and build that trust in breaking the fast, because that's the real key, breaking the fast. And we've all failed. We've all failed.
Yeah, so critically important. And it would, I think when you're on the fast, well, I don't think, I know for an absolute certainty that you start pulling from the field, right? Like you're and you feel that, and it feels like you just can't even compare it to anything else. So you just feel so amazing. And like I actually really miss it, and I do want to go back, and that's the progression, right? Me moving back up towards that. But it's like the way that an analogy that I've put onto that experience is when you go on the fast, it's like you upgrade to solar energy. You're no longer tethered to this density of earth. And then when you start eating again, it's like you get pulled back down, like quite shockingly. And then all of a sudden you're on coal power again. And it's like, how do you adjust to this again? You've been like up here, pulling from the fields, and then you get dragged back down to this density and this reality of existing.
It's usually coal power, the heavy
Coal
dense
power.
diesel power, like fat, that heavy dense. That's why, fats are the most obstructive. It's just, there's nothing more dense that we can put inside ourselves. And it's why they're the most obstructive. And that's what some people just love, that heavy material feeling, they're addicted to it. And that's okay. That's their experience. That's what they're here for, to experience, I guess. It's we've all gone through that stuff, but there's just no comparison to being on the fields, eating and very, very heavy, dense eating. It's just different levels. It's choice for each one to choose where you want to go. Where we focus on spiritual life, like if you go back, way back when we started sharing, we're talking about, a lot more about kidney filtration and this and that. And you don't need to know any of that stuff. You just got to trust in the divine, follow the protocol, and just watch what happens. The physicality takes care of itself. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to know anything. Follow the protocol. You have some healing reactions, follow the protocol, use the tools, and everything takes care of itself. And we always come out stronger. It never fails. It's the ones that go off track, don't follow protocol, don't drink enough, dry fast too much, don't wash their colon enough, get into trouble. People follow protocol. We haven't seen people get into trouble. They have challenges, but they don't get into trouble because we have everything that supports the purging, and that's the key. This Master Fast protocol is so powerful. The cooked, when you're putting that cooked juices, that solvent through you, it's such a powerful stripper. We need all the supports to help move things, keep things moving. That's the key. And that's where novices think, oh yeah, they know better. Okay, well, we know better. I had no choice when I learned about when I started doing my first 40-day cooked juice fast. I didn't know anything about anything. That's what was presented to me, and whoa, and I had a big lesson out of that, right? Ended up in bed for almost a couple of years, but so people can avoid all that. Just follow the protocol.
But what I found, and for me, I really just surrendered to the process, and I think it's a beautiful thing to do. But a lot of people can't do that, Gino. They need to know, and I think I definitely do appreciate trying to understand at a deeper level certain things, but at the same time, we need to have a healthy balance of faith in a process, and at least just try it and experiment with it and experience it, because then once you experience it, there's no going back. Like you just know it's working. And
I see what you're saying, and I understand it totally. But if we look at especially the last 3 years of that cartel system that controls the health, if we just look at the last 3 years, forget about before that, and we're going to say we want to trust that system, and people always want to go back to that, their tests, their and so on, diagnosis. That's what they trust, even after seeing what happened the last 3 years. Like I gave up on that system a long time ago. I seen it for what it was in 1990. After that, I stayed away from that system. I knew it was evil. For me, it's evil. Right from,
I agree.
It's a foundation. It's evil intent. It's about control, and to keep people, keep people as customers for life. That's all.
We're definitely on the same page there. I was damaged by the medical drug cartel on a few occasions, so I had to learn the hard way through my own experiences. And that was another reason as to why I wanted to fast. I actually have, when I started my fast, I actually wrote a why I want to fast and stuck it on my wall, and that was what I was looking at every day when I get up and go to sleep. And And it was like, you know, I want health sovereignty or health freedom. Hang on, where is it? It's up on my wall here. I want to reach my highest potential in this human experience, you know, and I want to change my lifestyle. And the last one, and I hope you don't mind me swearing, but to fortify myself against the fuckery. And the fuckery is what I call, you know, everything, the medical cartel. And because at the end of the day, I don't want to end up in that system at all. And I want to have control over my life and be my own author of my own story. Do you know what I mean? So that was like, why am I fasting? When I have hard moments, I would look at that on my wall and I would go, all right, refocus and get back into it. But yeah, the medical drug cartel, all of it, the whole system. I mean, I could go on and on about all of it. And it's not just them. They're just a part of it, you know, one element of the system of control, as we know, but we won't get into that. But that's in a whole other topic.
I call it the Luciferic intellect. That's that energy, whatever you want to, whatever name you want to give it. That's what I like to call it.
That sums it up.
It gives you, it'll convince you of everything but the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so alluring because the lies can be found placed carefully amongst truth. So, you know, discernment, even the most discerning person can easily get tricked. And that's why I try not to believe in too much anymore, because, I mean, beliefs can be just based on lies. And even the word belief has the word lie in it, which is funny. But
the languages.
What's that?
It's the languages, you know, I also call those, it's part of the Luciferic intellect. The actual languages it's confusion. Like we could be talking things and we're listening and we're hearing one thing, but the person's meaning completely something different. Like, for example, if I say 2 + 2 = 4, most people would think 2, the number, plus 2 equals the number 4. I could be saying TWO plus TOO equals FORE. I could be meaning that. And so that's why languages are so easily corruptible. And if you look at the legalese and the medical, they have their own languages as well, which makes it even more confusing to make them look more intelligent
and more in control.
We can go on and on and on. So, you know,
I could have discussions about that with you for hours.
The divine, that for me, speaks in everybody's heart. There's no words, there's no languages. It's a knowing. It's just, we know, we have that understanding and we go with it.
Yeah. And so I think it's more about, for me, like, I don't hang beliefs on knowledge too firmly. I like to have an idea of things, and I do seek knowledge and read a lot of things. And I mean, there's been some books that have been completely life-changing for me, as we've already discussed, like Arnold Ehret's works. That knowledge is, and I don't think it's all knowledge to be discounted as all lies. Like, I think it's about seeking that knowledge out and finding what makes the most sense, and then also having the courage to actually experiment with it and actually put your money where your mouth is and go, okay, well, I've learned this knowledge. Am I actually going to test it out and see if it's true? Because that's the experience really guides truth, I find. And that's what I found with Masterfast, and, you know, reading Arnold Ehret's works and finding out and pulling all the waste out. I'm like, well, this is undeniably true. You know, it's not a belief, it's knowledge. It's direct truth.
Yeah, and Masterfast does not have all the truth. We just know to get yourself in this state and use all the tools to assist us. And in this fasting state, the body, well, we call it, you know, the energy of the divine works through the soul and does what it needs to do to physicality to bring it back to blueprint. And it works. We don't need to know, like I said, who, what, where, when, where, how. We can want to believe that we know, but how can we know? The infinite intricacies in combinations, it's impossible to know. But in this realm, but, you know, as a place from where we come from, you know, that zone of the limitless realms, we do have that knowledge of that, all knowledge within us. We have that all within us, I believe, and we're part of it. So there is that knowing within, deep within our soul. So, but in this realm, it's
easy to forget.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. So the microscopes, focusing everything on the matter, you're not going to know the truth, is from what what I understand. You need to go way
Yeah.
beyond matter state.
Yeah. And you said something about going back to the blueprint, and that's what I've said multiple times to people that are close to me. And after I did the master, like my initial round of the fast, I really did feel like, and I still do feel like I've been set back to the original blueprint in terms of the way that my body works, and not being able to digest things that were harmful to me. Like after I broke the fast, it was just fruit. and that's all my body was wanting. And if I strayed too far from that path, yeah, I'd get feedback. So yeah, and I still get that now. And so that's why I really, even if I wanted to go off the path, I don't think my body would let me. But I know people do, and they just retrain their body to accept these poisons again. But for me, it's just, no, I just wouldn't do that, because I'm getting this feedback for a reason, you know?
What starts happening, we start, these little punishments to ourselves, because we don't feel good. And we test ourselves. Oh, maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, and we do it over. And then slowly, what starts happening, we start putting ourselves in that numbed out kind of state where we don't feel it as much, and because we numb out our senses again. And it's slowly over time. I remember one fellow, it said it took about 2 years to get back to exactly where he was before he did his, this long 108 days, and back into the same place where he started. In a good place. So it's a choice people make, and some people just want to do this as an event, as something they want to mark on their calendar in their life, and that's all they're going to do. They're not going to go back at all. And some people will implement a lot of the things in their lifestyle. That's probably a big percentage of people. They'll take at least portions of what they've learned and you implement it. And then there's the very, very few that will actually live it as a lifestyle. Very few,
Yeah, I can see how it's, but that's the thing, as you mentioned earlier, like you really have to put your life under the microscope and be willing to step away from a lot of what society considers to be normal. And one of those things is like I've said to multiple of people that I know, I think there was like multiple times. Yeah, exactly. But walking down the street, like I live in a beautiful place on the Gold Coast called Burleigh Heads, and it's right on the beach, and there's a beautiful point, and there's all these, what I used to think were really, really nice restaurants. And I used to go and frequent these restaurants all the time. And I was walking down the street. This was like in a particularly ungrounded moment. And I was walking down the street. I can't remember at what point of my fast it was, but I just felt so depressed and just sad that I was looking at all these people in these restaurants, and all these restaurants are just selling pure poison. They're like drug dealers, alcohol, all the damaging foods. And I was walking down the street going, this place is a madhouse. Like, how am I going? And there's like multiple times where I had these like awakening moments, and then realizing that I'm never going to eat in one of these restaurants again.
Never say never.
Well, yeah, but this is true. But maybe it's more like finding restaurants that are more appropriate. So, but for the most part, like I'm not going to go and eat at some restaurant that's selling toxic, poisonous food that's laden with salt. That will probably hurt me. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, what's subjectively true based on my experience, do I want to go and eat that? I think I'd be an absolute crazy person if I was going to go and eat like a big salty meal. Like I even had, I could just imagine the edema and the leg swelling that I could get. I even got, I got leg swelling and edema from eating too much celery after breaking my fast because it was too high in sodium. So I'm like, if I was going to go and eat some big salty meal, I think that I would probably perish. I don't know.
It's interesting, just the thing on salt. How many people say it's absolute necessity and a health thing, and then you got the people saying it's poison. And what's the truth? You're gonna have to find that for yourself, depending what lifestyle you're living. It'll be your truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, just based off my experience with eating too much celery, I think that there's like elements that the whole nutrition thing, like I think you and I can both agree that that's very subjective and probably all crap, but just like virus theory or germ theory. But I mean, we've proved that we can live off the fields just through like drinking the grape juice and so forth. But yeah, I think when you are eating, there's probably certain elements that we definitely get the energy from. And I don't think it's got to do with nutrients. From what I understand, it's probably more like the actual elements in the food. And from what the natural hygiene movement, they talk about apparently like the ideal diet is fruit. And fruit has somewhat of a natural balance of 8 parts potassium and 1 part sodium. So it's like a very small amount of sodium. But then you eat things like celery, which are quite high in sodium and probably is not in that natural balance that we need. And
Well,
so, yeah.
have you done any green juices at all?
Yeah, I did. I was doing lots of green juices, but I think I just went a little bit overboard on the celery.
While you were in the fast?
No, I only did the green juices. There was one point in the fast where I did green juices because I started getting detox symptoms a little bit too heavily. So I used the tools of having the green juices and that was fine.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking it, did you feel how much heavier they are than the grape juice when you're drinking?
Yeah, it definitely brought me down. Yeah. I had more of a grounding element, I think, for sure. And then when I broke my fast, I was leaning quite heavily, maybe a little bit too heavy on the green juices. And then I also started eating celery, and admittedly sometimes I still do eat celery. If I have like a really bad salt craving, I use that as a tool to stop me from going to eat injurious foods. But I think I ate a little bit too much at the start and I reacted to it. So and I find I also get that way with other things as well, like if I eat too much nori or something. So I don't know. I'm just trying to feel it out, like what my body is telling me and what feedback it's giving me. But I'd be very hesitant to try any salt myself personally, because just having edema in my legs that was quite swollen, and I'd have these big marks where my socks were because I had these big thick ankles. That was just from what I understand celery. So yeah, I won't be going to restaurants and eating big salty meals again, that's for sure.
Edema, you just got to do extra washing in the colon.
Yeah. And I have still been using that tool as well, the Enemas. I love them. It's like washing your face when you in the early morning and you have that nice fresh feeling, but for your insides.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Simple, beautiful routine to implement in a lifestyle. And it really helps, especially in this environment that we're living in these days, where they're trying to poison every single aspect of our whole life in every which way. So what chance do you have if you're not having some
Cleansing.
kind of purging regime? You're good luck. And that's why we're seeing sicknesses at all-time highs and like never before.
Yeah,
we know
absolutely.
We know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many different reasons, but there's a few main ones. But yeah, and I had a lot of people question that you become dependent on the Enemas, like your bowel becomes dependent, and I just went, you know what? I'm going to prove this wrong. So I actually did go without Enemas for about 4 or 5 days, and no issues. I was still digesting completely fine. So if anyone has any concerns about Enemas and your bowel becoming dependent on them, it's absolutely wrong.
Just with all the people that did 108 days especially, I remember every single person, they talk about what they had after that. They've had the super bowels after they broke their fast. They all had super bowels, meaning perfectly move, complete. There was only one person I remember that having challenges, but they were constipated their whole life and they were in their 60s, so they had more work to do. That's everybody had super bowels. So what everybody's telling us that your bowels get weaker from Enemas is a bunch of bull crap. They don't know what they're talking about. People are spitting things out from no experience and no knowledge in what we're doing. So it's just, you got to let that stuff go, because they don't know what
Mhm.
they're talking about. Rene's a colon hydrotherapist, and the people with the biggest challenges of with bowels, colon, are the people who eat the heavy diets, especially all the people on the Atkins and the carnivores diets and the keto diets. They have very poor working bowels, very poor, because they're on a
Mhm.
stimulating diet. They feel good, but nothing's working. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of time, because of the cause and effect that from what you're doing to yourself. That
Mhm.
it's so people can say whatever they want. We've only seen absolutely miraculous results from people following the protocol, which is
Yep.
doing enemas every day except the dry days.
And that's my own personal experience as well, like the results that I've had. And I tried all of those things, all of those diets like keto and Atkins, and I've tried pretty much everything you could try. And I was probably eliminating once a day if I was lucky, and then now
And you were
I will
eating how
go,
many times a day before?
oh, ridiculous. I was eating like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then snacks as well.
Yeah.
And
So just think about that. Eliminating once a day,
yeah,
but we're having all those meals. Where's it all going?
I know, right? Well, I mean, it all came out during Masterclass, didn't it? That's why I had new code Clark coming up for over 60 days. Um,
It's
yeah, it was
interesting,
really,
like that's this is why people talk and they just don't know what they're talking about. Sorry.
yeah.
Not that we know all the answers, but we know what we know from
I think
people.
it's really interesting that these people who make these claims as well have never actually tried doing a long fast themselves. So they're coming from a place of absolute zero experience and just throwing around external knowledge that they have no confirmation is actually true. So yeah, when everybody kind of confronts me about certain things, about doing a fast, or I just go, have you actually done one? Why don't you actually just try it? Just do it. Go on, give it a go. See how you go with it. Because I just know for a fact that once they start seeing the results, they're going to have to start eating their words. And that's what I had to do as well. I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I had to let go of when I was on a fast, especially about eating meat, because when I went on to Master Fast, I had no intentions of stopping eating animal products. Um, and along the journey, as I learned and read Arnold Ehret's books and other books and found out about why all this waste was inside of me, I think that's important, is understanding where it comes from and why. I think that helps the process in making the shift as well. It did for me. Yeah, I was just like, well, obviously there's no going back. And I think I definitely felt conflicted eating meat. I think being a spiritual being, and yeah, I don't want to get into the whole vegan stuff because I don't really associate myself in terms of being a vegan, but I definitely felt conflicted eating meat. And it's like, what I do is, am I living in a state of contradiction? Are there things that I feel are wrong, but I still doing anyway? Is that like, how do I balance that and bring myself back into alignment? And so for many years, like I tried to justify eating these injurious foods, and same with meat, but other things as well. And you always have these excuses and justifications, but at the end of the day, like if you know it's wrong in your heart, then why are you still doing it? And I think that's what Master Fast also brought out in me, is like, where am I living in a state of contradiction in my life, and how do I bring myself back into alignment with what I truly feel spiritually within myself? And it's not about being vegan, animals or whatever, but it's like, what is right and what is wrong? Do you want to go and kill something, slaughter it for no reason when you don't have to, when you can easily sustain yourself on living foods such as fruit, and then fast? It's just, and then have a pet at the same time that you love, but then go and kill another animal. I don't know, but
It's we're going, I don't know how many generations with this. It's built within us. It's programmed within us very, very, very deep. I think you said you also have Italian in your family.
yes, yeah.
Where it's food and more.
You know what it's like. You know what it's like. There's no escaping it. I think I told you already that I eliminated well, I had eliminated wheat primarily out of my diet. I wasn't eating it all the time. I kind of would go back and forth with the eating wheat stuff, but there was one period of my life when I wasn't eating wheat, and I went over to visit my family in Europe, and I told them, oh, I'm not eating pasta or bread anymore. And they just looked at me like I was this crazy person, and they just went, what? And then they just pretended like they didn't even hear it, and then just put the pasta down in front of me, and they're like, you'll be eating it. And I'm like, and this is when I was at a bit of a weaker resolve, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll just eat, because it was just easier to eat it, to argue with them.
This is what I mean about the emotions.
The emotions,
and pressure. Just it's easier to just, okay, and then I'll work on cleaning myself out. This is what happens, and then it happens over and over and over again.
Over and fall back in.
Cycle,
yeah. Whereas now I'm a lot stronger, and I've been to family gatherings, and I'll BYO my own food, and I'll be like, thanks everyone, but this is my food, and they've actually been really good with it now. So I think it's like once you get stronger within yourself, then you can deal with it. But I was definitely not strong enough to deal with it back in those days. The Italian family. Yes. We
love to eat, right? That's but we love fasting way more. That's our saying.
It's the culture. And like, isn't it funny that culture has the word cult in it?
Yeah.
Cultural programming.
A lot of generations of programming that's very deep within us. Very hard to break that pattern. Very hard. But can be done.
Yes. Yep. Masterclass strips it all back.
Focus. So what kind of challenges do you have? You were talking about UTIs. Anything else in the past that you were?
Yeah. So
a lot of the stuff escapes your mind once you fast.
Yeah, I know. Like I've had to.
Some orbs.
What I link back to being vaccine damage from earlier days. I had one particular incident when I was 13, when I had a bad reaction to vaccine. Whoa. And then, I think I was about 12 or 13. I actually feel like I died momentarily in that moment, because it's like I passed out after getting the vaccine, but I jumped onto another timeline, and I was existing in this other timeline, and I just kept living life as normal. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I was in the vaccine van again. And I was like, no, but how did I get back here? We were just, somewhere else. And it was just so bizarre. And I don't know why, but I thought surely I must have died and just jumped into some alternate reality. It's really hard to explain. But it really just disturbed me for a long time, because I didn't really know. I think that's when I started questioning reality a lot at a young age, is having that experience, knowing that there's something not quite right with this place, or maybe there's a lot of other explainable things going on that you can't really put your finger on. And then I had another experience where I went and got a vaccine, and I think it was the diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus jab. And I actually ended up getting pertussis about a month after I got the jab, or the so-called pertussis. You know how illnesses are all germ theories and blah, blah, blah. I actually think that personally, what I think is that the illnesses that they create are actually coming from these vaccines. And I dead set got this illness. And I remember stomping into the doctor's office, and I just went, what is wrong with me? And he was like, you've got like whooping cough or whatever it is, pertussis. And I got so angry. I'm like, didn't you just bloody vaccinate me against this thing like a month ago? How does this make sense? And he made it some absolute just rubbish story. And I just went, that makes no sense at all. How can you be vaccinated? They've learned, right? Yeah, exactly. And so that was like another moment where I started questioning things. And then I got stupidly went back for more travel vaccinations, probably about, I don't know, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago. And I got a whole bunch of travel vaccinations and went traveling, and a month later came back. And I got severely ill. I had something which apparently is like, well, I know now it's just like a slow detox from being totally overdosed on poisons, but what they call it is rotavirus, which is kind of like malaria. Apparently you get it from mosquitoes, which whatever. I know, like, obviously I was poisoned by something. And yeah, so I was really sick for about 2 years with this so-called virus, and or poison from whatever jabs they'd given me, which this is what I think. And I ended up going to a naturopath who I know are trained very much in the mainstream still. But she actually did help me. She woke me up to a lot of things in terms of vaccinations and fluoride in the water and GMOs and stuff like that. She just breadcrumbed me. She wouldn't really tell me things because I think they're not really allowed to say too much in their professional practice, but she would just breadcrumb me about certain things, like, oh, did you get any vaccinations? And then I told her, she's like, oh yeah, have you done any research into those things? And I was like, oh, no, not really. And she's like, maybe just go home and just do like a little research. Oh, have you maybe, pop these keywords in there? And so she kind of sent me on a little adventure to go and investigate things. And
Rabbit
she
holes.
kind of rabbit hole. She sent me down the hole. And then, yeah, once I learned about that, it was like, that was a slow burn of learning. And I mean, I pretty much turned anti-vax like well and truly before I got onto the healing journey. Like, I rejected big pharma and modern medicine years and years ago after learning about all this stuff. So I was, looking into natural therapies a lot more and leaning on that and not really going to the doctor, but I was still doing other harmful things at the same time. But so that was that. There are 3 kind of big things that happened to me in terms of vaccinations. And then, yeah, UTIs. I think a lot of women struggle with these problems with urinary tract infections. It's just something that is quite normal and accepted as, oh, it's just a normal thing, you get a UTI. Yeah, no, it's not normal. And but yeah, it's accepted as something quite small and nothing really big. So, but I had suffered for them for over 20 years, ever since I was like in my early 20s and or even early teens. And I've never really had anything else apart from that chronic illness that I had with what I think is the vaccine poison, but what mainstream calls rotavirus. I've been pretty lucky. I did have, when I was younger, something worth mentioning. The reason why I did that 16-day raw juice fast when I was in my early 20s was actually because I had so-called cancerous cells found in my uterus, and I actually had something called a cone biopsy. And that was what prompted me to do the raw juice fast. And funnily enough, like, another moment that sticks out that I was like, oh, that just doesn't seem right. I remember after I had the cone biopsy, I used to have to go and see a specialist every 6 months to get more pap smears. And I had, for about 2 years, I had to get them every 6 months. And I think it was like maybe the second pap smear, I had more so-called cancerous cells come up. And I don't know if I just had a doctor who was a specialist who was a little bit more awake to these things, but he said, look, don't worry about the cancerous cells, because sometimes they'll just come up and they'll go away. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So what about the cancerous cells that I had before? And he's like, oh no, there was probably too many. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said something along, they were too far progressed, so you had to get them removed. I'm like, but cancerous cells just come up and go away. Like, don't they all just generate into something bigger? Like, how can they just come up and go away? It just didn't logically make sense to me. Which apparently what I've learned now is that, cancer is just part of a healing process and they come up, and then, if your body's strong enough, it will process them away. And apparently certain people will have little cancerous tumors come up all the time, and the body just absorbs them and processes them through the elimination pathways. But then once you become too far gone in terms of toxicity, that's when it becomes an issue. So I remember that point in time where this specialist told me that the cancerous cells will just come up and go away. And I just went, wow, that's quite interesting also. But yeah, as I mentioned at the start of this interview, when I did the fast, I didn't really have anything particularly wrong with me. I just knew that I needed to clean my house. And smoking was another reason why I knew that I needed to clean my house, because I was smoked on and off for about 20 years. and I won't even get into like the recreational drugs. so much stuff, alcohol. Yeah, I knew that all this stuff was poison. I knew that it was still in me. So yeah, I just wanted to get it out. Basically, that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Well, yeah. As we used to say in 108 days, 108 days just opens the doors. It just opens the doors. That's it. And we've seen like miraculous things in 108 days. And this is where the mentality of eventing, you pop your pill and everything's taken care of. 108 days, everything's taken care of. No, it just opens the doors.
Mm-hmm.
All it does.
Yeah.
We used to say,
yeah.
What was the saying we said before that? We just scratched the surface and we came up, just opened the door. Sounds better.
Yeah. Opens the doors. Well, yeah, and to be honest, I'm still going through detox at the moment. I have weird things coming up periodically. Obviously, it's a lot slower because I'm eating, but I'm for the most part, I'm sticking to the protocol. So I still feel like I'm having a lot of, well, not a lot, but I still get a lot of sulfur smells coming out of my body. And most recently, I've been having a lot of hair loss, and I think that's somewhat related to heavy metal detox. Could be, but my body's just eliminating it because obviously it's holding stuff that's not good. That's my way of rationalizing it. But to be honest, I've just embraced it, and I think it can be quite confronting going through the detox process, especially if you're going to start losing hair. And I mean, I'm getting to the point now where it looks like I'm going to be cutting my hair short because I'm losing that much. And I've just embraced it. I've just been, if it has to go, it's just going to go, and whatever.
Yeah. There's several people, women freak out that lost the hair. I remember right off the top of my head, Michelle and Sarah. You can go look at from even they lost Michelle. She showed me a whole bag of her hair she lost, and it was, I can't remember, it was after the first year, second year, she grew hair like she never had before.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't doubt it at all. Like I've watched, I've heard of Hulda Clark's story about her losing all of her hair as well. Like she's like one of the old vegetarians. And
the way I look at it is, when you're in that fasting state, the body goes, "Oh, I can get rid of this stuff," and it starts dumping all poor material. It just keeps dumping and dumping and dumping because that's the only time it can. It can't do it, and it can't do it when you're eating. It just can't do it. The belief system that you can heal when you're eating, people still believe that. I'm not one of them. You do not heal. The body will have to compromise while you're eating to do what it can because you're continuously eating. It does not properly heal when you're eating. And the evidence of that is people who've broken bones and then they master fast and they have severe pains in that area where the bone broke because that area was not completely healed properly. So I'd have to rework it. And some people,
I had that.
Yeah.
I've had that. Yeah. Mono fasting. Yeah. I had it in a ankle or foot injury. Even in my back, I had some whiplash accidents from snowboarding and stuff when I was a bit younger, and there would be like a week where I'll just be in agony, well, in particular between my shoulders and up here and into my neck, and there was no amount of massaging that would make this pain go away. No amount of stretching or rolling on balls that I tried everything. And then eventually it just went away. But yeah, I had that on a couple of occasions, like the weird bone pain. And knee also, had like ankle, knee. And I just did 89 days. I didn't even do the 108. Like I didn't make it. I wanted to, I didn't really have any firm expectations as to where I was going. But that's the build up, I'm trying to work my way back up and do longer fasts again. And
the rest of our lives.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing. It's the beauty of making it a lifestyle, is that there's no rush. But I actually think that from how I rationalize it is that a lot of the cleaning has to happen first before the body actually wants to heal as well. Like you need to let it clean house before it will get that deeper healing. And that's what I think. I actually still think I am cleaning, even though I'm eating fruit. I mean, it's still detoxifying in some way.
Like what we've seen is, the breaking of the fast, it's at least 2 to 3 times the length of the fast, at least. Like 108 days, you're looking at a year. You're breaking the fast for a year. If you know, if you're going back to eating after 108 days, it takes time.
Yeah.
The physicality has a 9-year cycle. So depending where you are in that 9-year, right? The femur is the oldest bone in the body, which takes the longest to replace, takes 9 years. So depending where you are, many infinite things happen. We don't understand it all, but we have that basic understanding of the 9-year cycle. And you know, that's why we say 9 years is a good start to this lifestyle. It really is.
Well, I mean, the way that I look at the fast, and this is one thing that I'm just realizing now, and I don't even really see it as I've broken the fast. I just feel like I've just stopped one level and I'm living another level. Like I don't see myself.
That's what we want. That's what we want to be. We're living the lifestyle. Even when we're eating, we're living the lifestyle. When's my next fast? It's always in my mind. When's my next fast?
Yeah, I know. It's always there. Like I can't get rid of it. I'm like, okay. I actually wanted to jump onto, and I'm like, no, I feel like I need to be, I really want to honor the process a little bit deeper when I go into a long fast next time. And I just feel like I want to be in a better place in terms of where I'm living and more out in nature. Because right now I'm right near the beach, but it's quite a busy area. And I am actually moving out more west. So I'm away and I'm going to be out more in nature. And I know like there's never a good time in life to say, I'm going to do this fast because you can just wait forever before you have the exact perfect time. But I think for me, like definitely honoring that and just sticking to the path now. But it's always in the back of my mind. It's always there. Like I'm always thinking about fasting. And not in a bad way, not obsessive way, but I just know that, you know, it's truth. It's
any spiritual revelations that happened that you're going through it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I as I mentioned, I did have that it was this really intense out of body experience in 2019, which for me was just a really deep connection back to source in an instant. And yeah, I mean, I already knew what I was in terms of my being a spiritual being and connected to source and eternal, but it's easy to forget when you're living in eating dense foods and eating the wrong things and poisoning yourself, you know. And then when you start doing the master fasts and you start pulling from the fields, it's undeniable again. You just feel it. And there'd be so many times where I just, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's hard to put into words, but yeah, I've seen a lot of things in terms of other spiritual entities as well. Before doing master fast, that's just been my life. I've seen that from a little girl. But I actually saw something leave my body. I haven't spoken about this to too many people, but when I broke my fast, and in particular, I just after I broke my fast, I actually released a whole lot of what I think are kidney stones. I don't know if the food pushed it out or something happened, but I had all of these yellow pumicey like stones come out, and then I think it was on the same day, I actually had 2 massive worms come out of my urinary tract, which was horrifying. Wow. Horrifying. And that same day, I had this, it was like this shuddering release, and my whole body wouldn't stop shaking. And it's like this thing came out of me and left my body. So I don't know, like, if there's some metaphysical element of these parasites having like a entity attachment to something. I don't know, but yeah, this thing left me. It was like a demonic entity, and it showed itself to me. And yeah, I mean, it's really hard to know. I was in a really ungrounded state at that point, but I truly believe that something was attached to me, and through the fasting process, I was able to dislodge it and get rid of it. But on an emotional level, like I had other really deep healings in terms of just being able to heal relationships with people, especially like my mother, who we had some really hard times when I was younger, and there was a period of time where I didn't really speak to her at all. And that relationship has been healing over the last couple of decades, but over the fasting period, it was like everything just fell away. And then she's even fasting herself now, which is amazing. She's doing a lower level
Your
of the
mother?
fast. Yeah. So
What's her age?
she's 64, and
Wow,
she's
awesome.
doing a lower level of the fast because she has had chemo, sadly. So she's doing I'm not sure what level she's doing at the moment, but she did it and she was like, this is me, this is my life now. She knew that she needed to clean her body.
And she's the Italian one, your mother?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's a little bit, see, the thing with my mum is that she's a little bit rogue from the family. So she's been able to move away from the traditional path a little bit more. But yeah, she's accepted it and she's living the life now, and she's read Arnold Ehret's books, and
Wow.
she sees the truth. Yeah.
Was she born there, or was she born in Italy?
She was born here. Yeah. It was my grandparents that immigrated over.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's been another thing. Like, we both, through the fasted lifestyle, have been able to heal our relationship again. And I think there's a lot to be said for healing parental disconnection as well. So yeah, that's been really life-changing for me as well. And I think just the being connected back into your true self gives you that power of saying no to everything that we know is controlling us. Do you know what I mean? I think when you're disconnected from yourself, you're easily influenced. When you have that knowing within you and that power, then there's no way you're going to be swayed from the truth. And you easily, I found that as well, like especially over the last few years, once I started connecting, because I did start connecting back into my true self gradually more and more and more. Master Fast just pulls you straight back there. But I had really been feeling this build-up of connecting back to myself. And it does give you the power to just stand and be yourself and say no to things that are not good for you. And I think over the last few years, especially with everything that's happened, with
how many say yes to this?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Majority
Exactly. And being scared of what people think, the group think mentality instead of being your individual self, you know. And when you have that spiritual connection, you are that individual and you have that power to say, no, I'm not doing this stuff. And you know, I'm not doing it just because you think that this is stupid or just bucking the norm, bucking the trend, and being comfortable with doing it and being scrutinized for going against the grain. And I think also, like, once you start making those decisions that you're not doing something, somehow I feel like, I don't want to say the universe, but it's like source just supports you through that process. Like, say, for example, back when that stupid pandemic was rolled out, I knew that they were going to start rolling out some stupid vaccination program. And in the back of my mind, I just went, I don't care what happens, I am not getting that jab. And I just made the decision in my spirit, and I knew that I wasn't getting it. And no matter what happened, I was always looked after. Like, everything just happened. And I know some people had a harder experience than that, but it was like, because I made the decision that it wasn't happening, it didn't happen. And I didn't really have a terrible time with it. I wasn't really forced into really hard situations. Well, I had to make some big changes in my life, which were challenging, but I think maybe I just approached them as, this is what I have to do. And I was actually ready to go and live under a tree. I was like, I actually got a bag, I packed it, I had all these emergency equipment, you know, in my car ready to go, jerry cans of fuel. I was like, if I have to leave and go and live under a tree, that's what I'll do. I'm just not getting it. And that was because I knew that I was pulling from my source, you know.
There's so many, you know, they felt that they were, you know, on a noose. They had no other alternative, and they were kind of forced to do it. And it's pretty sad because of their work or whatever, because, we have all these financial responsibilities and stuff, and,
Yeah.
Master Fast is here if you want to clean out. That I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything else out there that's going to clean you out. That stuff is nasty. You need to really
Yeah.
clean that stuff out.
Yeah. And I think also like it's the attachment to the material world, isn't it? And that's got a lot to do with the food and everything like that. Yeah. But yeah, I've had a lot of people interested in my experience, especially some that have sadly, been forced into that that decision. And yeah, I truly feel like Master Fast is powerful enough to reverse damage. I really don't know at what level. I don't know what they're putting in those things, but fast, just do it. That's my recommendation. Just do it. Get into it. Get into the lifestyle and start cleaning.
Well, what I've seen in 30 some odd years of fasting, body will purge everything that's not supposed to be in there through fasting. Yeah. So everything.
Well, yeah. My hair. I actually
it's not supposed
everything.
to be there. It's going to purge it. How long is it going to take? As long as it takes.
Yeah. I think because my hair is colored as well. So I think it's purging that. That's another reason. Obviously, it's holding heavy metals. So yeah, that's my rationale. But yeah, getting rid of it. So now I'm actually thinking, does that mean that I'm going to go and cut my hair and just embrace the fact that I have gray hairs and let them grow out? Because I don't want to re-poison my hair, do I?
There's hennas and stuff you can do if I know there's women especially, with the color and everything, but there's things you can do. There's lots of things you can do. And for some
but
people,
you're right, the body will drop everything that's
some people they get their color back. The emotions play a big part in hair. There's lots of stories that I've heard of, people turning completely white overnight from being in a complete shock situation, hearing some horrible news or whatever, something happened in their life, and completely from one day the color, the next day they're white. So emotion, back to emotion, the power of emotion. So if it can go that way, why can't it go the other way? I'm still gray. It's what I'm saying. It's possible. Of course, it's possible. It's just that we have to put that level of emotion into doing that, and to getting our focus into that, if we really want to do that. I have, I've seen so many miracles, like so many people. It's just incredible, the stuff. It's just embrace and just go for it. Just live it and love it.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing what can happen. Like every once in a while, I go back through interviews and testimonials, and it's just like, whoa, because some of them just slip your mind because there's so much. And some of the miraculous stories is just like, wow, like people born with crooked bones and they straightened out, like you're going, wow, nerves regenerating, and people paralyzed, and just goes on and on and on. So many stories. But the pain thing that is, from all the people that shared, we've seen, when we were doing 108 days, especially when people did the level 7 for 108 days, we've seen that pain left people's bodies would be the absolute minimum would be about 60 days to 90 days. In that range, most people had no more pains after that. The pains returned when they started eating certain things.
Interesting. Yeah. I wonder, like, eating things off the path, or still, or just eating in general. Yeah.
When you go off the path, the pains return.
Yeah, definitely. I was just wondering if it was like the eating in general, because
if you're eating on mostly like fruit and salads, you're not gonna have pains. It's when you start going into mostly cooked, even if it's vegetable based, you're mostly cooked, and you start eating animal proteins or the heavy proteins, a lot of legumes and grains, you're gonna have pain. You're gonna have pain. Grains equals pain. First, number one is fats, proteins, and grains. I put those.
Yeah, I definitely went a little bit too overboard on the fats. At one point, I got really excited about cashews.
Oh yeah,
And
go nuts.
they're gone now. They're gone. They're eliminated. They're gone. I've been going almost as funny because since I've been eating, there was a stage where I did become a little bit ungrounded with the eating, and I didn't really make major mistakes. They weren't too far off the path, but I could definitely feel that they're not right. The nuts, yeah, they're no good. I was eating the soaked nuts and stuff like that, but yeah, I had to pull back, and I definitely
They're very hard on us.
Yeah, and not only that,
they got the
garlic
fat, they got the protein.
well. Yeah, and garlic. Being Italian, I know that you can appreciate the garlic element. I got excited about garlic, and I was eating too much of it, and wow, it was actually coming out of my skin. My skin was eliminating this smell, and to the point where, so I'm a Pilates instructor and I teach at a studio that one of my friends owns, and she pulled me aside and she said, awkward conversation, Rene, but you smell like a garlic clove. And I said, really? And she's like, it's that bad that you can teach in the morning and another teacher can come in the afternoon and smell the room garlic. Wow. And so I was like, wow, this can't be good. This can't be good. And my gut was feeling quite, I couldn't really tell if it was just, yeah, I was getting a lot of feedback. And so I eliminated the garlic, and then I found out about the allicin in the garlic, which kills the bacteria, which we don't want, right? So then I was doing the baking of the garlic, and I have got some of the fermented garlic from the recipes from the masterclass recipes. So apparently baking garlic, or
not every day.
no, yeah. So apparently baking and fermenting or drying it can reduce this chemical compound called allicin. So yeah, I was like, holy crap, now I'm gonna have to eliminate garlic. And I was like, I've already eliminated so much out of my life. But so I did it, I got rid of it. And I have had it a couple of times since, but just baked or dried, or the fermented. But for the most part, I've actually come quite comfortable with eliminating those things away that are quite harmful. And it's like I'm going through, even though it's like I'm still going through an elimination process of cutting things out, and I actually feel more comfortable with it. I'm coming back to the fruits, and actually quite enjoying it. I really love the freshness of the fruits.
You can't go wrong with fruit.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Only avocados.
I still have an avocado every once in a while, though, I must admit. But it's like a treat. It's a treat. It's a treat that I do. And I don't react too badly to them if I just have a little bit. But yeah, I definitely just keep it in my mind that it's a treat and go from there.
They grow down for the most part, Australia? They grow there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, abundantly. Yeah. It's actually one of my friends used to date, one of my old friends used to date a man who lived on an avocado plantation. We used to go up there and just take bags of avocados. And I look back at it now, I'm like, oh my God, bags of fat. But yeah, I just look at them as something that I enjoy every once in a while. And it's still a fruit, so I'm like, I'm gonna have it every once in a while and enjoy it. But I think it's just that moderation is key with those ones. And I'm still having some sunflower seeds, but I soak them and I find that they're actually quite. I don't react to those at all. I think that seeds seem to be a little bit more agreeable than the nuts.
Yeah, sunflowers, pumpkin. Hemp, those three are a little easier than anything else. I'm sure there's other ones, but nuts are, much, much harder than seeds.
Yeah.
So you just got to be careful with all this stuff.
Yeah. But I think for the most part, the way that I feel is it's a good indication as to why this is such a powerful lifestyle. You know, I just cannot compare to how I felt prior. Just the level of vitality and stamina that I have as well, because I work in the fitness industry, and I pretty much just debunked all of my previous beliefs in terms of, because I worked in the fitness industry. Like protein was a big thing, right? Protein, meat. I actually followed the blood type science for a long time, which was being blood type O, which is, you know, the most common blood type, means that apparently we get a lot of sustenance from eating red meat. So
I'm O
I had
as
to,
well.
and what that? Sorry.
I'm O as well.
And what was that? Sorry.
Blood type O
Oh,
as well.
you are you? Yes. Okay, great. Do you want to hear something? I don't know if you've heard of this, Gino, but one of my friends is he's a herbalist, and he's very much in the know with a lot of the stuff, and very much on a similar path in terms of lifestyle and wanting to start his own master fast journey. But he told me that apparently, and this makes a whole lot of sense to me. So blood type O has really watery blood. And I actually have this theory that blood type O was actually a created blood type from people falling from grace and starting to eat the animals. And it's actually just infected the blood. And it's, well, not infected, but just changed it physiologically to become this weaker blood, thinner blood type. And it's like this encumbrance and then anyway, he told me that apparently if you clean your system enough, you can actually change your blood type to like an A type, which is meant to be more of a vegetarian. So I was like, wow, that's so fascinating. I don't know. I mean, who knows for sure? But I just thought that was quite interesting.
I looked into this blood type thing many, many, many years ago. And, you know, when I found out that cows have over 20 different blood types and they all eat grass. So I go,
wow, okay. Yeah, let it go.
Garbage, like all the rest of their theories. That's what I look at it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's interesting. But like, he actually gave me a blood test kit to see if I could test my blood type. And my blood's so thick now that I cut myself and I barely bleed. Like that's another thing that I've noticed.
Right away. It's not that it's thick, it's the body's working properly to heal it quickly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's phenomenal, because I used to cut myself previously and I would just gush blood. And there was a few times over the fast that I cut myself and I was just quite amazed. I just couldn't believe it. But even when I did this, I got this blood test kit to test my blood, you know, just for experiment. And I got the lancet and I stabbed myself and nothing came out. I couldn't even test my blood.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean, this is all part of the journey.
You say that, like if Arnold already talks about him cut himself and stuff. If you remember, he was on fruit, no pain, almost instantly healing, blah, blah, blah. But also the other thing, the last 3 years have changed. If you talk to people who do tattoos, they say prior to that, everybody bled. After these 3 years, after this thing, nobody bleeds anymore.
Wow. I wonder what's going on with that.
We know what's going on. Their bodies are self-destructing. If you can't bleed, just think about the blood flow. What's the blood flow? We look at the blood flow completely different than anybody else. We look at the blood flow as the sewer system. It carries out all the garbage. And the lymphatic system is the energy system, where everybody else is teaching the blood is your kitchen and the lymph is the sewer system. No, we look at it the other way around. And it's so important, the sewer system, that if it's not flowing, you die.
Yeah.
You die, because that's how important the sewer system is. It's continuously has to clean. That's why it's always flowing. Well, the lymph system, you know, it's stagnant. You can still survive because the sewer system's flowing. And then eventually when everything gets so plugged up, you drop dead. But it's very, very interesting. Like when that was presented to me, that the blood is the sewer system. And then I started, you know, analyzing and questioning, yeah, that makes a lot more sense than the other garbage they've taught us. So yeah, the sewer system is vital that it keeps flowing, to keep it oxygenated and keep, you know, oxidizing all that crap. That's what it's there. So if you see the blood is heavily laden, you know, when you do the microscopy and stuff with all kinds of crap, then you know the body's really full. When the blood is clean, then you know the lymphatic system is clean as well, and the rest of the body. So that's the state you want to be in, right? You want to have,
Yeah.
you don't want the body continuously loaded in the bloodstream full of crap. You want it to be as clean as possible to do minimal amount of work cleaning. And yeah, but it's very interesting when I heard about this tattoo thing, and I've heard about it several times, that story about the tattoo artist noticing
Yeah.
people don't bleed.
So there's kind of two, sorry, I've got like a little fruit fly buzzing around my head. Where is it? So there's two kind of elements here. There's like, when you cut yourself after you clean your system, you don't bleed, it's because the body's working properly. And then there's also scenarios where the body's so toxic from getting certain things that
think about logically, you get a cut, the body's trying to purge out as much poison it can because there's an opening. Otherwise, it has to go through the elimination organs and channels, right? The skin and so on. So when you get a cut, you know, what do you see? People getting infections. We call them outfections because the body's got to get rid of that stuff. You know, it's from within, it's not from out. They don't catch anything. So that's the simple, basic understanding that I have and the logic that I use, and why the blood is the sewer system. You know, we learned that in plasma science, not mainstream science, plasma science. And it's vitally important, the sewer system, vitally important. We need to have cleansing on a continual basis. So what's the focus in master fast? Purging. And when we focus all our energy on purging, what do we see? Miracles.
Yeah, 100%. I can attest to that.
It's right. It's the answers are in plain sight. And the more you fast, the more you'll see. Wow. Yes, all these answers start showing up in your life because it's so simple. It really is so simple. So yeah, the theories, that's all they are, is theories. And you know, there's holes in all of them. There's infinite holes in all the theories, every single one of them. Do they have some truths? Yeah, they have some truths, but we're gonna put our faith in the creator. We don't need theories. We don't need them. We don't need tests. We don't need theories. We don't need any of that stuff. You know, there are situations you get in an accident and so on and so forth. There's that system that, you know, is there for us to use, but it's not a system you really want to be using at all. You want to avoid it like a plague because it's evil from its core, as far as I'm concerned. So why do we want help from that system? We want to do everything possibly we can to avoid that. Take care of ourselves. Take charge of your own health. Learn, you know, use tools, have a herbal, you know, what do you call a medicine cabinet in your home. And you have enemas, you know, ozone, you know, use all these tools that we have. There's so many things that you can do to avoid those places. Those places are for absolute emergencies, as far as I'm concerned. And all the ancient knowledge before those was there, you know, where we can use herbs in emergency situations, but a lot of that is lost. It's lost and hidden, and they don't want us to have this knowledge. They want us to use that system, to be entrapped in that system.
Well, they can't make money off us healing ourselves, can they?
They will cease to exist. Right? Pretty quickly.
Yeah, but the more and more the people wake up to this, the more and more they don't have power. But yeah, it's funny because you know, you said that you felt that we were digressing over the last few years, and I agree, but I just wonder, like,
there's both ends, right? There's people awakening, but I'm talking about the majority, the masses.
The greater, yeah. I think they were always asleep, though. I think it just became really vastly obvious over that period of time. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were always asleep.
Yeah.
But it was just shoved in our face how asleep people
now
are.
You know easily who's asleep.
Yeah, I know. And I have this joke with a friend that when they stopped, because I was one of those people that just never wore a mask right from day dot. There was like, I think there was one time where I wore a mask, and it was just to appease my mother in an airport when she was really sick. And that was it. I wore a mask once the whole time. And I remember when they stopped the mask mandates and people started walking around with their masks on, I said to a friend, I said, I actually think I prefer it when they were all wearing masks, because then I could actually tell who was awake. And now I have no idea who I'm walking around anymore. Like, which isn't that a little bit, it's like PTSD, I think. But yeah, I don't know. It was such a weird time.
Let's elevate all these souls, just
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But a lot more are slowly waking up. And I think, you're right about sharing stories, and sharing stories definitely helps. And I think, we have our circle of influence, and it's that resonance thing that happens when you start changing yourself. You somehow change the world as well around you. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Be the change you want to see is I believe in that.
And even just small changes. Like, I've noticed people around me, like maybe not even starting a fast, but wanting to know what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, I did this fast and now I just eat fruit. And they're like, oh, and I've noticed a few people actually changing their diets and just eating more fruits. And so it's maybe just like planting those seeds is still really valuable, even though maybe somebody may not be ready to start.
Absolutely, 100%. I've seen
Yeah.
people plant seeds like 20 years ago, and then all of a sudden they woke up and they start making change. But you never know. So yeah, we're always planting seeds for sure, and you water them once in a while. Like at the beginning when I started 30 years ago, you want to tell the world everything, and people they don't want to hear it. And then I learned that quickly, and just quiet until people start asking questions. And that's why we're here. If anybody wants it, we'll help you. We're not pushing this on anybody. Do it. Choice is always yours. But we know what the power of this lifestyle, and we have no doubt, absolutely zero doubt of what this thing can do, how it can transform you, and
absolutely,
it's just a beautiful thing to see. Anything else you want to share? If anybody else has any questions that are on here, it's a few people on, I think. We got that's joined us. Yeah. And some people on Facebook. If not, let's give them a few seconds here. But
I don't really have a question. Just wanted to thank you guys for sharing. I've been going through a lot of videos and interviews, and just prepping myself, and like you say, no matter how much videos you watch, you don't know till you actually get into it. So right now, for the last 20 days, I've been doing one meal every 3 days with the fruit meal, and
wow. Awesome.
And then doing the master fast in between. And I've been getting results, I know it can go deeper, but definitely been getting some healing reactions and some cleansing. So yeah, I'm just curious. I have a little bit of like fear or I forget that word, intrepidation or whatever. It's not really fear. It's just kind of like caution entering this space, like I really want to just do it wisely. So Rene, I really appreciate your experience and just like just sharing some of that wisdom, because it really leaves some nuggets for the newbies, to really hold on to and know how to tread these waters, so it's really good conversation today.
Thank you, Yael, for sharing that. It's awesome because most people are looking for stimulation, like 108 people doing 108 days. They want to see that massive, transformation and everything. Not many people have been sharing, the level of lifestyle for whatever reason. It's not appealing to people. People are looking for that stimulating thing. And, you go in, you live the level lifestyle, depending where you are. You start moving up and down like eating every 3 days. That's powerful. That's very powerful. If you keep doing that, you'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a great
absolutely.
time. So I was doing that for the last couple of years, actually. One meal every 2 days, one meal every 3 days, but with navy beans. And I was following some of the Western A price stuff, so raw milks and like raw cheeses and stuff. And
Wow.
like the results are not like nothing like this, Like on the days off, I got some of the fasting kind of like clear-headedness effects, but none of the cleansing effects I'm getting now. It's just off the chain.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The fruit is just so powerful. The grape juice just, yeah, it will just, there's just no doubt that it works. Once you start going on that path, you can just see the truth of what it is, and everything else just falls away, really.
Right.
Yeah, there's the grape, we got the pomegranate, we got cherries, black
Oh,
cherries. Some
yeah, the
people
cherry
can't
juice is
handle
good.
black cherry, it's too strong for them.
I loved
Prune
it.
is very strong. To drink straight prune juice would be way too powerful.
Oh no, I was drinking a lot of cherry juice. Maybe that's why I started detoxing too hard. But
Yeah,
I was
very
drinking a
strong.
lot of cherry juice. Yeah,
I love cherry juice. I love cherries.
it's amazing. I
Yeah,
actually met a lady randomly at the fruit shop, and she told me that she healed her cancer just by eating cherries alone. Well, she had healings, like massive changes. She was, I think, given like 6 months to live. And so cherries are incredibly powerful as well. Yeah, absolute certainty.
yeah. There's all the juices that we recommend. Any of the dark berries. It's all the dark. Watermelon. Even the watermelon people had tremendous results with watermelon. So you got the reds and the black. Dark, the deeper colors. The deeper the color, the more powerful we found energetically. Do we absolutely know why? Not really, but it works. It works. So,
Without a doubt.
if you go to the lighter juices, you're going to get some cleansing, but it's not going to have the power. It just does not. It's
This
just
is true.
Francesca, what about cooked apple juice post fast? Yeah, you can do all the lighter juices if you want to slow things down. Basically, you can do the lighter juices. We're just sharing the information that these are the things that work the best as the most powerful solvents for cleaning. If you want, we're not saying that you have to be on the most powerful cleansing. Like we used to say it before, the more dry fasting you do, the more aggressive the fast. And what do people do? They started doing more dry fast, and then they got themselves in trouble because they started drowning in their own filth. Because
I did that.
Yeah. So, you have to have prudence in everything. You have to listen to everything we're saying, not just sections of it, because that's why it's a system. So yeah, of course you can drink any of the cooked juices, the fruit juices, anything you want. There's nothing wrong with them. I enjoy pineapple juice and many other juices of the later apple juices once in a while. But it's not something that is a powerful cleanser. It just isn't. It just doesn't have the power. The grape is one of the most popular. It's because of the winemaking industry and because of also the table grape industry and so on and so forth. There's a lot of grapes grown, and it's readily available pretty much anywhere. Watermelons pretty much anywhere. Cherries, you can get it probably in a lot of places. Pomegranates, another pretty common juice. So we got choices. We got a lot of choices. There's probably other juices out there that we've never heard of in fruit kingdom that work. You just have to, some dark based fruits, and somebody's just have to try it and let us know, and we'll add it on the list. So yeah, enjoy, eating cooked fruit would be better than eating any of the other food kingdom. Cooked fruit would be better than raw vegetables, in my opinion.
Yeah, right.
Because it's much easier on our system. We're drinking cooked juice. If you're eating all cooked, when you're eating, it's a different story. But I'm just saying, as far as what's easier on the body to release, it's the fruit kingdom by far over the vegetable kingdom, by far. So we want to make the fruit world, when we're eating, the staple of our diet. We're not saying don't eat anything else. Some people may want to go to fruitarian only. Very few will do that. Most people will do fruit with some leafy greens, and then some people do the vegetables, and then some people have the fleshes, the fishes, and the meats, occasionally or whatever. But the choice is always up to the individual, what life they want to live. How obstructive do you want to live is the way we put it. How obstructive do you want to live? We have the massive fast food spiral, and the more you're into the centers, the more closer you are to the nothingness. So the more you go outwards, the more obstructive, the more heavier lifestyle you'll be living. The inside is nothingness. Then you got the cooked juices, then you got the fruits, and then you start moving outwards to the cooked fruits, and then you got the leafy greens, and you got the vegetable kingdoms, and then you got moving into the heavier legumes, grains, and as you move outwards, the pharmaceuticals and stuff, these things are highly obstructive, and the fats are very obstructive. I don't know if, depending what pharmaceuticals probably be more obstructive, some of the raw fats. But yeah, the massive fat spiral, because there's no straight lines in the universe as far as I'm concerned, or in nature. So the food pyramid, we threw it out. It's a spiral as far as we're concerned. It's much more sense to me. That's why we came up with that. That information just came through during a fast. It's not something I came up with, it's just information came through. It makes sense. So, yeah, so we love people to share, don't be shy. Be awesome for people to share what the levels. I think maybe also people are more embarrassed that they're doing levels, they're not getting the massive changes quickly and so on and so forth. But believe me, anything you share can help somebody out there, and this is why Massive Fest went crazy the first couple of years, 2-3 years, just went ballistics. And then
I think we live in a society also that is programmed on quick fixes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's have it as fast as possible. And I have a really big issue with these parasite detoxes and all of this stuff out there. Because it's like, yeah, it's like you're killing these parasites, but you're not really addressing the root cause, and you're just throwing money at it. Yeah, I get triggered by it. And people, I mean, I've shared a lot of my story, and I'll have people reach out to me and just ask me about, what can I just do a 2-week fast? And I'm like, why would you even like, I hopefully they would, and then it would inspire them to do longer. But it's like, why are you doing this? Are you just doing it to fix one issue? Or are you actually wanting to heal yourself? Like, that is the question. Yeah.
That brings V equals P minus O, right? Arnold Ehret talks about like how, you can't increase vitality. No, you can't take out obstructions by increasing the power through these methods, right? Through like vigorously doing stuff like shaking the body, or like doing saunas, or doing crazy quick flushes, but then ultimately brings down the vitality, right? So the right way to do it is to actually take out the obstruction. And then that naturally increases the power, and then the vitality goes up. So the other day I saw this weird squat, Japanese squat, right? That apparently if you do it like certain times a day or whatever, it's gonna heal prostate issues. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, check out this one ancient Japanese squat. I'm like, I'm just laughing, but people fall for that.
Well, what happens when you're doing these physical things, you can get energy starting to move in areas that energy wasn't moving, and you see changes happening. So it can assist. So we can use all these tools as tools. They're not the fix-all.
The catalyst. Yeah.
Acupuncture, massage, this, the essential oils. These are all the tools, beautiful tools, and we love them, embrace them, saunas, everything. We love them. We use them, but they're not the end all to fix all your problems. And do people get results doing that stuff? Yeah, you see results, but let's see what people are after 10 years of doing this stuff. Like the cold plunges, it's a big thing in the last few years, the Iceman. There was one guy shared a video that he did them for 2 years, was it? Long term, over 2 years. And he put a graph, like he had all the problems he had and how much benefits he had from the ice plunges. The benefits were going up and up, and then they plateaued, and then over time the benefits started going declining. And he was doing it every day, the cold plunges. So when you listen to this stuff, this is because you're not dealing with the root and seed cause. You're doing things through what? Stimulations. Cold plunges are stimulating, right? Oh yeah, you're gonna get things are gonna change, but for how long? The plateau that we talked about, people plateauing, doing all kinds of different protocols. We have not seen anybody plateau massive fasting. We have not seen it. There's no plateau. As far as I'm concerned, there is no plateau. Let's, I don't know. You're going to maybe reach a point where, minimal things are happening because your body's working so efficiently and at getting rid of all the bombardments we're getting. But that'll be at a place where you're not eating at all. You're just on liquids maybe, or you're not even drinking at some point. But because we're in this environment, in this life, in this realm, we're being bombarded every which way all the time. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. It's in every direction all the time. Especially we're living in big cities, and just the noises. It's a bombardment. Just the frequencies of the cell phones and stuff, and it goes on and on and on. Radio frequencies and pollution and chemical spills and all the stuff they put in the foods. And it's just in this spraying in the skies. It's everywhere. Today we need to work on purging more than ever. It's an absolute necessity as far as I'm concerned. But I say live a spiritual life and forget about the physical, and your physical will take care of itself. Guaranteed. It does. It just does. We don't have to worry about it.
That's been my experience as well. As I was saying earlier about making a decision in my mind, in my just knowing that it was not going to affect me. And it really does take care of itself. And just surrendering to the master fast. The amount of
the divine creator. Master fast just
the protocol, having faith in the protocol, I should say, I suppose, is like probably the better way of saying it, because you really do, you just have to trust it. And I didn't even question it. I just went, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to stick with it.
If once you've read it through, you listen to some people, read some people's things they've shared, and if it makes sense, go for it. If it doesn't make sense, don't bother. Just don't worry about it. But if there's anything that's making sense to you, trying doesn't work. You need to embrace it and live it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you do. I think people can mentally self-sabotage themselves as well in terms of not opening up or having faith in the protocol. And I think once they make that decision that they don't trust it, it's not going to work for them anyway. I think there's some element of energetic blocking if you're not going to allow the process to happen. Because I think the mind, body, and spirit, they all work symbiotically when you're in this experience. So if you're not in alignment in terms of agreeing on a spiritual level that you're going to do this, then, perhaps it's not going to work as well for you. Like, maybe you're not going to release as many obstructions. And I'm not just talking about physical obstructions, but those energetic ones as well.
Yeah, we haven't seen anybody that was following the protocol that did not release. What they did after the fact is another story, because of all the things we talked about earlier at the beginning about social network and so on and so forth. But we haven't seen anybody not release in Master Fast. I remember one person, they were like 2 weeks into, or maybe more, saying, I'm not releasing any mucoid plaque and everything. It's not working for me. And I started asking questions, what are you doing? I don't know what they're doing, but people say they're doing, doesn't mean anything. We need to know what exactly they're doing. Oh, I was eating a couple of dates, just to carry me through. You're not fasting. Every day having a couple of days, you're not fasting. What do you mean I'm not fasting? No, you're not fasting. That's not Master Fast. If you're eating every day, you're eating. Your body is not in an elimination mode. So that's why you're not releasing. Oh, really? Yeah. Stop eating the dates. And then within a couple of weeks.
Out it comes. Yeah.
And then I remember the story about, was it Josh? Who didn't start releasing old stuff until 60 days. He was so locked up.
Wow. 60 days.
He was curled up. He couldn't sit on his bum because his spine was so crooked.
Wow.
And everything started releasing, and like the nasty stuff, the nose knows. And then he went into tremendous transformation, but pain. And because everything was starting to straighten out. And I think he stopped at around 90. I can't remember exactly, because emotionally he couldn't handle it all. The transformation was too great.
Yeah. Did he go back to? Is he still on the path?
He's living a pretty much fruitarian lifestyle, from what I see. They don't come back and share people. We don't. We lose. There's too many people to keep track. They keep track of. There's literally tens and tens of thousands that came through Master Fast, and then there's more that we don't know of. We hear once in a while. I get a message. Yeah, I've been following you for so many years, and decided to send you a thank you. I'm not in your group or blah blah. It's funny the way things happen. But it's been a beautiful ride. Watching all these beautiful transformations and everybody sharing their stories. It's just I'm always excited, and listening to people. It just keeps me motivated. And
absolutely. I think it's important to be a part of a community where you're with the like-minded as well. It definitely makes it
very important these days.
Make sense, and you don't feel so alone. But I definitely felt very alone when I started my Master Fast journey, because people started dropping away. It's like I used to say I was fasting myself out of society. And I was like moving into a different realm. And you do feel like that. And I still feel like that sometimes. I had a bit of a rant the other day, because I went to a Pilates class and left, and there's this Rafa's Coffee, which is kind of like Australia's version of Starbucks. And it was early in the morning, and there was at least 20 or 30 cars lined up in the drive-through to get coffee. And I usually just observe these things now, and I just let it come in and let it go out. But sometimes I still get triggered by this stuff. And I saw this and I just went, look at these people here spending their energy, because money is, you spend your energy to make that money. It's like money is the form of energy exchange. And they're going and spending their hard-earned exchange of energy to poison themselves, with coffee, Black Death. And not only that, they're sitting in their car. And I just thought, why don't you just get out of your car and go in and get it, instead of waiting in the car for like a good 10, 15 minutes. And so I was like, this is the society that I live in now. And it's like, I fasted my way out of that reality. And it's like you're almost in this split. It's like you're here in the world, but you're not of it. you know.
Right. There's coffee shops here, you see them lined up every morning, for work, and I know that I'm not gonna say names, but they put nicotine in this coffee, and it's a drug, right? Caffeine itself is already, but this one named coffee is more busier than all the other coffee shop
Wow.
lineups, big major lineups, and everybody's addicted to stuff. You can see it. If they don't get their coffee, they'll be freaking.
Yeah. Well, coffee apparently physiologically changes people in terms of addiction, and yeah, scary.
Yeah, so
Socially accepted drug dealers.
exactly.
Oh, they are government approved drug dealers, we should say, and socially accepted.
In the food industry, it's the pharmaceuticals. There's all kinds of
Everywhere.
They're all
I just walked down the street this day and I'm like, drug dealer everywhere. Fast food outlet, drug dealer. Like, food is probably, I actually argue that food is the worst drug out of all of them.
food. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Injurious foods. Yeah.
Look,
Because you from a young age, from babies eating this food, they become addicted to these foods from birth almost. Well, infancy, maybe not birth.
fruit is not something that you can get addicted to.
No, I'm not talking about fruit. I'm talking about
Foods and
other
the
stuff.
foods and all the corporate
Yeah,
design.
processed food, salty foods. Yeah, anything processed. Meat even, they're stimulating stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Meat, fish, meat, dairy, the fats, very highly addictive. Anything with fats and salt and sugar. Those are the three combinations that you find in all the top busiest restaurants.
Yeah, it's everywhere. That's why I don't think I can eat at these places anymore.
And then on top of that, they're adding all the other MSGs and all the other stuff to keep you addicted. But it's
like a mental asylum, and everyone's self-poisoning.
Very interesting times we're at.
Yes, very interesting indeed.
I thank you so much for sharing your story.
My pleasure.
Awesome. It's been a wild ride the last several years. Take care of my mother. It was, oh boy, emotional roller coaster ride it was. And so we're here. We never left. We're continuously keeping the page going, and we went on the back burner a little bit, cooled off things, and because no more big dramas with 108 dayers, but the lifestyle is where it's at. From day one, if you go back all the way back to all the earlier videos and all the earlier postings, lifestyle. That's all we talked about. But people never heard. You never heard that, and everybody invents it, and it's the one thing that where why people get themselves in trouble, because they didn't plan on doing it as a lifestyle. They wanted to magic pill mentality, have a fix, and then go back to their old ways. But I'm glad that a lot of people implemented what they've learned in their life, at least.
Well, I think it's and that's why I got really drawn to share my story. I'm actually a really private person, Gino. I don't really it took a lot for me to start sharing my story. And I just said to myself, I don't know, I felt really drawn to it. I said I just have to start sharing this story a little bit more, and around putting myself out there I had to put myself out of my comfort zone a lot. And I just thought, if I can just help. What's that?
Especially social media.
I know. And I think I just realized that if I could just help at least one person find their way through my experience to their own healing journey, then it would be worth it, So I think the circle of influence is definitely powerful. And as I said, that resonant, you put that ripple effect out. And once I realized that my story could help other people, then it didn't become so hard to start sharing,
Yeah, I know how you
master
feel.
class.
It took me a long time before I decided to make it my first video. A long time.
Yeah, me too. I think I didn't really start telling people about my story until I was maybe a day 40 or something. Yeah, and I just knew I had to start like telling people about it, but I'm such an internal person, always have been, and I suppose maybe Masterclass has brought me out of my shell a little bit.
Oh yeah, like people that have had fears and stuff, it all gets released through this lifestyle. Everything gets released. It's really interesting. It's all, they all get locked up in these physical obstructions or emotions, and as we release physically, the emotions get released too. So it's everything's interrelated and tied, and if we just learn to embrace and trust in the creator, never mind anything else, trust in the creator, in the design, the perfect design he's created for us, and just let it flow. That's all it is. Keep things flowing, because stagnation is where we have the problems, right? We need to hold on and build obstructions. We need that flow of energy, and once we get into that flow, beautiful, we see the beauty.
Yeah, agreed.
And thank you for sharing your beautiful glowing face.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, ever since I've been eating fruits, my skin has completely changed. So I go out into the sun and I get darker and I don't burn anymore.
Was it you shared about peeling as well? Was it?
Yeah, I shedded like a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, that happened to me twice. Well, once during the fast where my I just like got all scaly and then it all just shed like a snake. And then it happened not as severely, but after I broke the fast, I also had like another shedding moment as well. But we know that skin's an elimination pathway as well. So funnily enough, I actually had another thing eliminate recently out of my face. I had a milia, which is like a little keratin deposit that gets stuck under the skin, and it's been there for like 3 years. And I actually went to go and get it removed a few years back, and it was too deep, and I was told it couldn't be removed unless I wanted to go and get some kind of plastic surgery or something. And it's this tiny little thing. I was like, okay, I'll just live with it. Anyway, it was yesterday, I think. It's like it just pushed itself out of my, so there's still a little bit in there, but most of it, like I was like, well, I'm just going to squeeze it because it was already kind of open. And a lot of it came out. So it's like my body's just pushing stuff out. It's still happening. There's the purge.
Skin tags falling off people, all kinds of stories, all kinds.
Yep. I had a mole fall off.
Backs just falling out of the ears.
Yeah. I had a mole fall off as well, a little one off the side of my body. I actually have a lot of moles, but it almost like fell off and disintegrated into my hands. So yeah, interesting. But anyway, absolute my pleasure to share my story, and anytime I'm happy to come on and talk about more things.
Out with the old, in with the new. This is what starts happening. So we just trust them and watch and observe. Just be the observer. Don't worry about it. It's going to be, when you go through those heavy duty healing reactions, it gets scary for people. I understand, but this is why we have the community here. We have all those videos. You can see how many people went through these things, and they always come out stronger. Always.
Yep, I can attest to that.
I know anybody who's died fasting. I know people who died eating every single day, every second of the day. People die eating. The only people that die doing stupid things, breaking their fast, like ludicrous things. I've heard a story, somebody in the group shared with me. The guy did 45 days water fast, and then he went to have steak dinners, and he died.
Wow, that's insane.
I don't know about that. Somebody shared the story with me. I've heard other stories like this, but people think they can get away with it. Just because some people do get away with it, other people will tempt fate and try these things. Why? We know that where it could end up. Yeah, you may survive. Yes, like me, way back, I survived, but I ended up in bed for often a 2-year period. I survived, but we don't have to go through that.
Mm.
We don't have to go through that. We have the knowledge now, so we can avoid pretty much most of that situation. So choice is always yours, folks. Thank you so much again, Rene. We can keep going for hours, but 2 hours is great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So many people will, benefit from this. I know, because it's happened in the past so many times. So
Great.
we'll see you back on the page, and
Yes.
enjoy the rest of your day. We're
Thank
off to bed up
you.
here.
Yeah, good evening. Good night.
Let's keep that plasma love always flowing. Thank you. Bye.
Yes, bye.